Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back to the channel. Glad y'all are here today. Come along with us for part one of our garden tours. Now, if you're new to the channel, me and my husband and 2 kids live on about 18 acres in the foothills of North Carolina, and we grow about 80% of our own food. That is including all of our own vegetables and all of our own meat, pretty much.
Exactly.
So we're going to show you what our gardens look like. We grow food here and there and yonder. And to keep this video from being super long,
we decided to break it into 2 parts.
Yeah, we're going to cut it into 2 parts. Be on the lookout for part 2. I'll be sure to link that down in the description whenever it comes out. I know in each of the videos you kind of see this garden in this video, this garden in that video, so on and so forth. Well, we're going to put it all together for you. And something I want you to keep in mind is nobody's garden is going to look the same. So just because, say, for example, onions. A lot of people grow a lot of onions because they eat a lot of onions. That's something that through the years, because we have been gardening for many, many years, through the years you kind of don't want to put work into something that you ain't going to eat no way. Right. So we've kind of, narrowed everything down to stuff that we actually eat, stuff that we actually use, and we hope we can inspire you today and maybe give you some ideas for your garden.
Yep. I guess first place to start would be right out to the main garden.
Yep. You can see here behind me, our house is right here, and our garden is just
right across the driveway.
This is, yep.
Something to keep in mind throughout the whole video here is it's going to be obvious to tell what we've watered and what we haven't watered. We are in a pretty decent drought right now. It's been just a little over a month since we had any measurable rainfall. We actually finally have some forecasted rain today at the time of making this video. I guess we'll walk straight through the gate here. So our main garden is fenced in. At least this is what we call our main garden. Everything's fenced in with, well, this right here is broke. But what do you call that wire?
Woven wire?
It's like dog lot wire, what I always called it. I can't remember the name. Welded wire. But it's about 4 foot high. Now you'll notice that, and I'm surprised nobody's ever asked questions about this in the videos, but the posts stand a lot taller than what the actual wire is on our garden. And the reason for that was we were having a really bad problem with deer out here before I built the fence, and I was actually aimed to go plumb to the top with wire. Well, once I put up this bottom layer of wire, knock on wood, we ain't had no more problems. So
I think it's like, I wonder if it's like an optical illusion to
it's like
deer.
A visual thing. They see the post and maybe think there's a fence there.
Yeah, because we had contemplated like cutting the posts off, because it kind of looks funny out here with no wire on it. But they were like, maybe they think it's as high, even though it's not that high. Maybe they think it is.
And that's a good possibility because you can see the tops of the T-post. And, it's pretty obvious that I guess the deer may think there is a fence there. I don't know. But anyways, like I said, luckily, so far, this has been this way now for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And we've not had a deer get into this garden. And if you look right around the edge, as soon as you walk into the garden gate, we've got a raised bed that goes down this side and down the back side. So coming down this side right here, behind these tomatoes, there is a grapevine growing on that fence.
See if you can see it through here. Right there's part of it. But it grows all the way down the back side of that fence there.
And we can see that. Once we get on the outside of the fence, we'll be able to show that a little better. But down through here, we have a variety of tomatoes planted. Yellow boys, is that what they were?
Lemon boys.
Lemon boys, yeah. Lemon boys in here. Then we have mountain merits. We have red snappers and halcinators. Now, shame on us. I'm not exactly sure which ones are the red snappers and which ones are the halcinators here. Down through on this end right here is where the red snappers and the halcinators are. And we actually have one.
You can see the grapevine continues on across right here.
We have one just about to turn red. That one's going to be our first red tomato.
I'm waiting on it. Like, I'm so ready for a tomato sandwich. By the end of the summer, I'll say, I'm so tired of tomato sandwiches. But right now, I'm ready.
But in amongst the tomatoes is some flowers. I can't remember the name of these flowers. We planted them last year. And to be honest, I didn't even realize they were perennial flowers. And they came back. So, I mean, that's cool. I think they look good. I kind of like having flowers mingled in with the garden, and you know, got something there to attract pollinators to everything you're trying to grow. So we creep on down here. We've got a little bit of lavender down here on the end. It's really not doing special. We do have a bigger lavender plant outside here, but I stuck some in there this spring to see what it would do, and it has grown, but it's not looking great. Down through here was cabbage. We haven't put anything back in this since we pulled the cabbage out. We're just kind of letting it sit idle, and we're not doing anything with it right now.
It's kind of a shady spot due to the trees here, so the cabbage loved it, but then, you know, it's kind of hard. Nothing that's actually a summer vegetable probably would do great there.
Probably not. And y'all, we're at the point where it's so dry too. Any raised bed we have, like, we're having to water every single day, and so we've just left it alone because we know if we put something here, that's going to be one more thing we got to water. But all of our in-ground gardens aren't quite that bad. We've been running the sprinkler on this garden here about every other day. I'll run it like in that corner over there one night, and then I'll let it go a day, then I'll switch it over here to this side and let it run a night. So, you know, the whole garden's not getting watered every other day, but I'm just switching it around every other day. But anyways, let's go back here and work our way back out.
All right.
So on the very end of this raised bed here, we do have some herbs stuck in here. I guess we can show, we got a little bit of basil. And this was bee balm. Then this is some weeds, that ain't nothing. Megan, what was this?
Oregano.
That's oregano?
Yeah, it's just trying to bloom.
Thyme. And then the sage. What has happened to the sage? You reckon it's getting dry?
Well, the old is dying off, and that's the new.
It probably wouldn't hurt if I watered it. Yeah.
Because I honestly thought it was going to die anyway.
It's still got some moisture down in there, but I may try to set it up to where that'll get watered this season too. But anyways, over here we have our sweet corn, which is Honey Select sweet corn. Y'all have probably seen in a couple of videos, we've just started picking the corn here. This corn is probably one of the prettiest patches of sweet corn we've had in a while. We've been successful at keeping the animals out of it where we have it planted up here at the house. I mean, as you can see, it's overhead high, and we've had some really nice ears on it so far that's been completely filled out. And from what I'm seeing, we've probably got a few more we could pick today sometime.
All right.
So we've got 5 rows of Honey Select sweet corn right there. Then we move on down to the cucumber trellises. Here we've got 2 rows of mainly pickling cucumbers, but let's walk out in these. The disease and stuff is actually starting to take a toll on our cucumbers already, which is quite a bit early for us. Normally our cucumbers don't start looking like this till a little bit later in the season. Man, I hear the bees a buzzing. These things are loaded with cucumbers though. As I look around, you can see them everywhere. That's all you hear around you, just a constant buzz.
Buzz, yeah.
So,
but actually, I mean, they're not looking terrible.
No, they really don't, but I don't think I've seen this quite as early as right now.
And I'll tell y'all how I like to do my pickles, and you can look back on a few of the previous videos and see that. I'm actually going to come out here at some point today and pick through them, but I don't let them get big if I can help it, except ones I want to eat on. Those right there, these little ones here, I come through and I pick them sometimes even that little. Now you talking about making a good deal pickle?
That's the perfect size.
Them little tiny ones, man, that's the way we like them.
Yep, that's the perfect size. My grandma, she would come and pick them before. She'll make them plumb out of them little things right there. And yeah, that's the perfect size for a dill pickle, I think. So all this whole row here is the National Pickling cucumber. Then the majority of this row is National Pickling until you get about right here. These are Market More cucumbers. And we've got a small section of Market Mores, which Market Mores make a good eating cucumber.
And they put off.
They do. They put a ton of cucumbers off. And then from about right here, the more rough looking cucumbers are the White Wonder cucumbers. These are an old timey heirloom white cucumber. Let me see if I can find one. Right here we go. Will it hurt if I pick it?
Nah, go ahead.
Let's show it. Right here we go. See how how they're white? And I don't know what the deal is, but as you can see, they ain't done that great. Right there hangs one too. That's a better looking one to show. So they look just like a regular pickling cucumber, except they're white. Honestly, you can't taste the difference in them. I think it's a mind thing because you're looking at a white pickle instead of a green one.
Now, when you eat them raw, there's a difference.
Is it?
Yeah. I can't tell you what the difference is because I can't put my hand on it, like exactly what it is. But there is a little bit of a flavor difference.
Okay. So next row over, we have a few okra plants, and you're going to see some bare spots in here. This was actually supposed to have been okra, and it never came up. Then this bare spot right here was zucchini. So looking back in our older videos, you'll see we were having a terrible time with the squash vine borers this year. For whatever reason, they only attacked our zucchini. They never attacked the squash. We kept them both on the same spraying program. I was treating both of them just exactly the same. But anyways, the zucchini never, we made 2 zucchinis.
That was it.
And that was it. And they didn't even really get big enough to do anything with.
And they wilted in no time, so I wonder how healthy they were.
But as you can see, we are drowning in squash right now. Like our squash, that's just one of the lesser ones. We've got some all the way down through there.
I'm gonna have to come out here and pick some of them too.
Yep. So we are drowning in squash. Now the row right beside us here, this whole row is San Marzano tomatoes.
If you've never tried the San Marzanos versus the Roma, we've done both, and I really, really liked making my spaghetti sauce, especially out of the San Marzanos. They have a really, really good taste.
Yes.
And
they make a lot of sauce for no more tomato.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to cook them down.
They're very, very meaty. Like they're not juicy, they're meaty.
But there is one downside to a San Marzano, and it's really shown this year. And I guess it's from our heat. Last year we didn't have this issue. But a San Marzano is an heirloom. And you may know heirloom tomatoes are a lot more susceptible to diseases and blights and everything like that. And down here on this particular end, we've been struggling. As you can see, we're about to lose one right there. I mean, it's about done.
Yeah.
But that is one downside to them. However, boy, they put the tomatoes off. Like you look under here, they're loaded.
And all these tomatoes here that you see, we actually started all these from seeds. We do get our seeds from Hoss Tools, and most of our stuff is planted with the Hoss planter. So be sure to check them out. We've got a link down the description for you. But yeah, these, it makes me proud that we started them from seeds, even because they're beautiful.
Yeah, and they look good. They really do.
And the method that we use to keep them trellised up like this is the Florida weave. I've got a more detailed video of that floating around the YouTube if you want to check that out.
And somebody's probably going to say that we should have pruned these tomatoes and let more air flow through and all that good stuff for the blight. And I won't argue with you. You're right. But we did that for a few years. We used to prune our tomatoes. And with the time we have to work with, we decided that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. It just...
I ain't never heard that one before.
What, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze? I actually heard it on a YouTube video the other day. But yeah, we decided it wasn't worth it. So we just let them do their thing. You know, we will get probably way more tomatoes than we need off of these vines. The blight will probably come and take them out later in the season, and that's fine.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that is completely fine with us. So next here is a row of jade bush beans, green beans. Oh, and we do have a little cucumber out there to come up on its own.
Yeah, it's a little volunteer. We don't let him live.
Yeah, but these are jade bush beans. That's probably one of our more favorite green beans. They make an excellent canned bean. And then we have a row of what we call October beans. But so like she just mentioned, a lot of our seeds come from Hoss Tools. On his website, these are called... Supremo beans. Is it Supremo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Supremo beans, which is just a different variety. October beans is like the common name around here.
Yeah. There's some other names that I've heard. Cranberry beans.
Cranberry beans.
horticulture beans.
Yeah, Taylor horticulture beans
Yeah.
is one.
There's been other ones. I'm trying to remember.
I
I can't remember all of them, but this is a bean of many names.
It is.
Tapazio beans.
Tapazio beans is one, that's
Tapazio
right.
beans, yeah. So I'm gonna show you real quick up close. I think I've got one I can show you what they look like. They're not quite ready to pick. You see, there's still baby beans in there.
Well, when we get down to the other garden, we'll be able to show a good one.
Oh, here's a good one. Right.
See, that's not quite ready to pick.
Yeah, they're tie-dye.
But it's getting there.
They get a pink tie-dye on them like that.
And we shell them. You don't eat it in the shell. I mean, I guess you could eat it in the shell, but we don't. We shell them and eat them like you would like a pinto.
Right. And so a lot of people just let them dry on the vines, and that's fine, you know, and keep them as dried beans. Actually, a lot of people do that. But I like to can them because that way it's a quick, easy meal.
And if you don't know what they are, the best way I can describe it is they remind you a lot of a pinto bean.
Yep.
A
creamy pinto.
Yeah, and I don't know no other way to describe that, but they're a lot like a pinto bean. So as soon as you walk out the gate of our garden here, we've got Maggie's flower garden. We put this in strictly for pollinators, and so far it seems to be working. The bees are just all over these plants all the time. Right there's some little ones on that sunflower there. But I'm going to tell y'all what. I never realized just how hard it was going to be to keep flowers watered. This little area right here has to be watered every single day, especially during our drought here. I'm sure if we were getting rain, it wouldn't be like that.
And Maggie does pretty good. Like, you help her out. But
I do. But she's done a really good job taking care of her flowers this year. I'm so proud of her. And she absolutely loves it. Everybody that comes up here, she has to bring them over here and show her flower garden. And she's got a right to love it. I mean, it's beautiful. We've got some grass and weeds and stuff that's really starting to show in it now where we're getting a little bit later in the year. But man, it's been beautiful since day one. So, right outside of our garden fence, we, a couple years ago, decided we didn't have enough room in here and we wanted to add on. And so we tilled up a couple of beds out here in the yard and have been planting in the yard. So there's the grapevine we were just talking about that's on the outside of the garden fence.
that thing is rocking and rolling this year.
We do have some Japanese beetle pressure on it though.
Yeah.
And there's a June bug. So I might need to get out here and do something about that. But outside the fence here, we've got sweet potatoes planted. They've only been planted, what, a couple weeks?
Yeah.
They have really started growing where it's hot like it is. And I've been keeping these watered. Just yesterday, so you go back and look at some of our previous videos, we've been having a terrible time with a vole in this bed. Not a mole, a vole, a V-O-L-E. And I got to think about it, and somebody suggested in one of the comments, it was actually just on one of the last videos that come out, about planting the castor bean plants up here because castor bean plants deter moles and voles. I don't know if that's true or not, but I went and looked up on Google, and sure enough it said castor bean plants can deter moles and voles. We have a castor bean plant that grows down here by the stable every year. You know, they come back from the seeds every year. So I went down there just yesterday and dug up a couple of sprouts, and I planted one here. I've actually got one planted on the little raised bed inside the garden there. And then I planted one out at the very end out here. Of course, they're pretty wilted because we're in the middle of summer and it's not the best time to transplant a plant. But anyways, I'm interested to see if that helps our vole problem. That'll be really cool to find out. So, like you said, like we say, these are sweet potatoes.
And this variety, we've got Beauregards here, and then are the purple? These are only Beauregards.
Yeah, these are Beauregards and these are Beauregards.
Right.
Down across the creek, we've got purple, which we'll get to. So we've got a bed of sweet potatoes there, and a row of sweet potatoes there. Out here on the very end was an experiment that we haven't dug up yet, so we don't know how it turned out. Where we've had the vole issue out here, I'm kind of interested to see. But I had a leaf pile here from where I gathered the leaves off the yard, bagged them up, and I just dumped them here. Well, you know, over winter it settled down and whatever, and we just raked the leaves back, planted potatoes underneath of it, and let them come up and do their thing. As you can see, the potato vines are dying back now, so we could probably go ahead and dig these, but we just haven't yet. But I'm interested to see how they turned out. Like I said, this was totally an experiment. If they don't turn off good, that's completely fine, because y'all seen in a previous video, we had a pretty good tater crop up at our other patch there. So, be interesting to see how that little experiment turns out. But as we walk on over, and you may notice, if you're new around here, and you may notice these wooden stakes sticking up in the sweet potatoes here, these are actually covered in bone sauce. So bone sauce is a natural deer repellent that a guy here in North Carolina makes, in the mountains of North Carolina. It's a Permapastures Farm, and it's called Billy's Bone Sauce. And it does really good at keeping deer out of your garden as long as you use it right. As you can see, we've got stakes placed really close together there, and each one of those have bone sauce on them. And as long as you keep those stakes in close proximity to whatever you're trying to grow, so far for us, it has kept the deer out. Then I guess this is our newest addition to the gardening, ain't it?
Yep. We
built these little TP trellises here, which we have a video on that too. And we've got black-eyed peas planted around the base of them. And in between them, we have some squash plants planted. We have squash and zucchini. So they're looking pretty good. And then we went back just the other day, mulched everything real good with hay on all three of these beds. And that was something I forgot to mention over there. I'm sure you've seen it. So up here on these gardens, especially where they're like smaller than our big gardens, and we can use a lot less of it to do it, we like to take hay and scatter it out and use it as a mulch layer. It helps hold in moisture, and which has been really helpful in this drought. And it also really does a good job at keeping the weeds down. So we do that up here now. Down across the creek in our bigger garden, most of the tillage and stuff down there is done with a tractor. So we don't use straw and hay down there. At least not as a main mulch anyways. Then right here we have a couple of cucumbers that are just starting to pop through. They're still little bitty babies. But we just stuck them in there just to maybe possibly get a couple of late cucumbers. If they make it. Then over here in the very front yard, right in front of the house. Of course, we have normal landscaping like most people do too, but we also have some edible landscaping. We've got, which the deer have started decimating, but there is strawberries here. Then we've got 2 fig trees. We've got one right there. That was the latest one we planted, and this one's been here a while. But they're loaded with figs.
I know. I really want to try fig preserves. Like, everybody talks about how good they are.
Really?
Yeah, so that's something that, as long as they make, I'm going to try it this year.
So, there's lemon balm all around our house everywhere. That's what this is. And the stuff just kind of, once you plant one plant, it's like the stuff just takes over. So we have lemon balm growing everywhere.
I actually dug this up last year, and I thought I got it all.
Well, I decided that I'm just going to leave it here because it makes a good ground cover and the weeds don't come through it. So between the strawberries and the lemon balm, I'm hoping we can keep some weeds down without having to do anything else with them. On around the side of the house, these are some sunflowers that actually came up on their own, because if you go back and look at last year's garden tour video, you'll notice we have sunflowers everywhere and they just reseeded themselves. So we've let them do their thing. They're back over there in that bed too. I don't think we just showed them, but there's sunflowers all in the bed. There is a whole layer of strawberries here. However, the strawberries are starting to get taken over by our actual landscaping. But we did actually get a few strawberries off of these this year too. Mm-hmm. So we'll slip on around. Right over in front of the bed where the fig trees was is another little bed. This bed actually used to be herbs. As you can see right here, there's yarrow growing everywhere out into the yard because that stuff also just takes over.
Note to self, plant it in a pot.
Yeah. Maggie's got more flowers planted around this. Like I said, it's been dry. These things were just plumb beautiful, but I think the dry weather's finally taking its toll. And we have a random peach tree stuck up here in this bed now instead of the herbs. We just planted that this year.
You can tell the deer kind of just wander through our front yard.
Eat the blooms off of those.
Eat the blooms off my pretty flowers. Looks like he's nibbled on the peach tree.
He may have.
Yeah.
Now, I see what I done. I put bone sauce on the trunk. So the bone sauce y'all heard us talking about earlier is actually created for orchards, and you paint it on the trunk of the tree, and that's supposed to keep the deer from eating your tree. I noticed that we had some deer damage here, and you can see we're already getting some new growth out. But I went ahead and painted some bone sauce on the tree trunk there, hoping that it would keep the deer from messing with it. And judging by the new growth, I'm going to say it worked. So we'll walk back on around this side of the house. And as we do, I mean, like I said, everybody's always got their own regular landscaping and stuff, but we also have more lemon balm mixed in. We've got some echinacea or purple coneflower, whatever you want to call it, growing everywhere. On this backside back here, we actually just put this in this spring. We planted some black-eyed Susans and a butterfly bush, some dahlias. Maggie's got her petunia. Is that a petunia?
I don't know.
I think it's petunia. Petunia there. And then a foxglove?
Yeah.
Then a foxglove back there in the very back. And so last year we were growing just a little bit more of edible stuff right here against the house. But we decided, you know what? We've got plenty of room in our gardens for our edible stuff. This year we wanted to dress our house up and make it pretty with flowers.
Well, a lot of them we did was like native flowers, like the black-eyed Susans.
Yeah, the black-eyed Susans are. Yeah, and so...
Or perennial flowers, that's what I should say.
Perennial flowers, yes. So, and also, Maggie has taken a great interest in flowers, so what better way to make your kid happy than to plant flowers all around your house for her to look at. She takes care of them, she keeps them watered. Those flowers are just about as important to her as our vegetable gardens are to us. So we always like to say that everything that's probably going to need attention, like a lot of attention in your garden, we keep it in our normal everyday path where it's easy to see from the house, easy to get to from the house. We can easily check on it multiple times a day if we need to. Then we've got the raised bed gardens here that are on our way to feed everything every day. So as we walk by these, we're on our way to feed the steers, feed the pigs, or whatever, so we can easily check on all of this stuff. And I think that makes a big part in being successful at gardening, because so much can happen in a day's time, especially this time of year. You know, a deer can come through and completely wipe out everything in just a matter of minutes, or insect pressure can all of a sudden come in and wipe everything out, or fruit can be ready to harvest within just 24 hours time. And having everything where you can see it constantly and constantly deal with it is super important, in my opinion, in being successful at gardening. If you stick your garden way out on the back side of your place somewhere where you've got to make an effort to go over to see it, you know, unless you're just dedicated, because we do have gardens that are just stuck out like that. But, you know, if you're someone that's crunched for time anyways, doing that is not a good idea, because you need that stuff to be right there where you're going to have to see it. You know, as I'm walking by here in the mornings to go feed, I can look out and be like, oh no, deer come in here last night or something, and I can address the problem quickly instead of it being way off out there where I can't see it, and then the deer come back again the next night and completely destroy everything. So, you know, it's easy to catch things when you're close. So this year we did have a lot of these containers up against the back of the house, and like I said, we decided to just move everything over here and kind of have it consolidated. So it makes it a lot easier for me to water, because we do have a water spigot right down the hill here. So all these containers can get watered right along with the raised beds. First, we have in this water trough, as you can see, These are cantaloupes. There's 3 cantaloupes in this trough, and then there's actually a cantaloupe in this pot right here.
They've all kind of...
But they've all mingled in with each other. And
that is, in case anybody's wondering or missed that video, it's a busted water trough.
Right.
Yeah, that's why it's getting planted in now, because it's busted.
So we have several cantaloupes coming on here, and before I knew it, we had a couple of rolls of old wire that come off of what used to be a chicken house here, and they were just laying over here. But before I knew it, the cantaloupes were already run up on it and vining on it, so I've just left them alone. But we've got a couple of cantaloupes that are just in there hanging. I'm very interested in seeing if that vine can actually hold that cantaloupe up. I think once it starts to get some size on it, I'm going to have to set something under it so it don't destroy the vine and the cantaloupe and everything. But there's cantaloupes all in here, and every one of them's hanging. So
I'm so excited about the cantaloupes. Personally, I like cantaloupe better than watermelon. And we've tried them in the past, and they've never got even to this point.
No.
They've never done this good.
Never, ever had cantaloupes that look like this.
I really hope I at least get one ripe one out of all this.
So what we've done this year that's different than any other time is typically we've been planting cantaloupes in the ground in our regular gardens. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason, they just never really amounted to much. This year, most of our raised bed stuff here is in compost that we make on our own. So there'll actually be a video coming up pretty soon, probably within the next month or so, on how we do that. And it's going to be a lot more detailed than what we've talked about in the past, because I'm actually going to show the process of us doing it. But anyways, this time we actually are growing them in straight compost. You know, they're up here where we can just baby them to death. And I think that's made a difference. Like, they're getting fed well. I've been throwing plenty of organic fertilizer by these things, and everything is looking good. And while I'm talking about fertilizer, I do want to mention, a lot of our stuff is grown with organic fertilizer and compost. However, there's a lot of stuff we use synthetic fertilizer on too, especially like out in the field gardens. All of that has, you know, your synthetic fertilizers on it. But just about everything that you've seen so far is grown, I don't want to say organically because it's not, but it's pretty close. We do use some synthetic pesticides on some of the stuff that we have to treat for, and when we have to.
Well, that's a good point there. And what I'm going to say to that is, the point is, we're just trying to grow our own food, and we do organic stuff first.
Yeah.
And
if it don't work, we go the other route.
Exactly. If that don't work, then we just do what we got to do to have our food.
Right. What she just said right there couldn't be no closer to the truth, because if we don't make something in our gardens, we don't have it that year. We don't go out and buy it anywhere. Like, if we didn't make any potatoes, we would just probably do without potatoes for the year.
Yep.
If we don't make any sweet corn, we just do without sweet corn. We pretty much, especially as far as vegetables and meat, we only eat what we grow. And I mean, when I say that, like, that's really what we do.
Now, that's not to say we don't buy some junk food at the grocery store occasionally.
Yeah, we do get the junk food.
Yeah. Like, the people at Food Line probably really judge me.
We ain't figured out how to grow junk food yet. If we could grow junk food, we'd be growing that too. However, you do make quite a bit of sweet stuff out of our blackberries and blueberries and everything like that. All right, back to the tour. We've got sidetracked here. I had an extra tomato plant, so I stuck him in this little pot here. Then these are 2 peppers that have just been, man, they're growing good.
They're beautiful.
And then
that was lettuce.
Yeah, it's done. It's done its due. Then down here in this little grow bag, we had some late lettuce, but it's about done all it's going to do.
Lettuce does not like hot weather.
No. These 2 right here are some leftover potatoes I had, and I had 2 empty pots, so I decided to stick potatoes in here. The vines on them never really looked that great. I'm not expecting a really good harvest out of those. I was just playing with it to see what it would do. Here I got 1 little sweet potato stuck in that pot. That's also just something else I'm playing with. This is where we started our sweet potato slips, and as y'all can see, if you went back and looked, I said I was done with the sweet potato slips, and I pulled all the potatoes out. Well, I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick the potatoes back in there and let them make more slips. And I think my grandma is going to take what slips we do get back here. She's wanting to plant her some, so they're not going to get wasted. Then here is also another experiment with tomatoes. So far has turned out okay. What we've done here, you can go back and way back in the videos from last year. This whole little bed right here was mulched extremely deep. Underneath we've got corn stalks. They were mulched over the winter, and then I dumped more leaves on top of that. And underneath, of course, is compost that we've added throughout the years. But there's no fertilizer on this bed except for what you see right here. It's some cow manure that I cleaned out of the cow trailer. That's really the only fertilizer this little bed has had. Like I said, this is totally an experiment. And the only issue I've noticed so far is I'm noticing that I'm getting a lot of blossom end rot. And I think I'm thinking it's from the dry weather we've had, because we haven't had enough rain to really just saturate the bed. And where I've got such a deep layer of leaves, it's taking so much water to get down deep and really water that soil, that I think that's what the blossom end rot's coming from. I do add gypsum to all of our tomato plants to help with the blossom end rot. However, I have noticed that this year, like I said, I'm assuming it's because of the drought, that I'm having a little bit more than normal blossom end rot. We've still not got it bad, but I have noticed it on some of the tomatoes that's coming on right now. So I have went back and added more gypsum, and I've been sure to keep it all watered in really good. The gypsum and the watering is probably the two most things that I know to do for blossom end rot. And like I said, for the most part, we're good to go on that. Like, I don't think it's going to be, like, by no means is it going to wipe out our tomato harvest. We just threw away a few with blossom end rot, which is something we typically don't have to do. Then right on the end here, I also stuck in some more potatoes. These are German butterball potatoes. They're still making, so we haven't dug those yet.
And there's a blackberry right there.
The blackberry come out on its own. Funny story here. Before this was all raised beds, and before I had planted the blackberries out there on Berry Hill, I bought a bunch of blackberries from a lady locally here and had them sitting out here in pots. Well, I never had time to plant them, ever. Like, I bought them that spring, and they sit there all summer long. Probably half of them died, and half of them took root into the ground. So when I went to plant them, when I pulled them out, you know, a lot of them were stuck. Well, that is actually where one of them came back, because at that time, like I said, there was not a raised bed here. This has probably been,
been a few
3-4 years ago. And that is one of the roots from one that was here, and it's finally really, like, it's took off this year. So I've just left it. It looks like it's awful happy there, and I love blackberries, and having a blackberry just stuck out in the middle of your garden makes a great snack while you're out here watering. You can just sit there and munch on it while you're holding the water hose.
It's a good thirst quencher when you're hot.
Oh, they really are.
They are.
All right, so let's get started with the rest of the beds here. This, all on these trellises here, these are cattle panels strung from one bed to the other. And we have Kentucky Wonder pole beans on them. This is also another type of green bean. We really like these as well. They're very good to eat fresh, especially if you put a piece of meat in with them.
That's right.
They soak up the flavor of that meat. It's amazing how they do. And then we did have this in onions. We've still got just a few onions in here that ain't quite ready to pull yet. They hadn't fell over, so we left them. I stuck some sweet potatoes in here just to cover what ground was there. The little tomatoes you see here, which are everywhere, are spoon tomatoes that somebody gave us last spring. And I planted one plant. And this year, they've been like a weed. They're everywhere.
So what a spoon tomato is a tiny little tomato that is actually about the size of my pinky nail. They are very, very tiny, but they're good. But
they're like eating candy.
If
like
you had to live off of a spoon tomato, though, you would starve to death.
Yeah, golly. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they are the smallest tomato.
But they are good, though. They're just tiny.
So here we have a volunteer sunflower, which has made a pretty good trellis for the green beans. That's decided to run up it here, so we've just kind of left that alone. We've got one of the white wonder cucumbers here that come up on its own, because last year this is where we had the white wonders planted. And so this one come back on its own, I'm assuming from a seed that was left over from last year. And then we have some bell peppers here. I believe these are poblanos. And now these are banana peppers. Somewhere in amongst these are some Mad Hatter peppers. And I'm not 100% sure what the other pepper is. I can't remember. We had such a struggle with our peppers early on. When I was down here watering last night, I was just thinking to myself at how much these things have grown.
We thought they were going to die.
They really look like they were going to die. And you can go back in some of our older videos from earlier in the year and see what kind of struggle we were having. I mean, they were awful. But, man, they've really come out now. And turns out it was, you know, we knew it was some type of insect. But it turns out it was the little, it was slugs and roly-polies both that was eating them.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, they're looking really good. I think those might be the best looking peppers we've ever had.
I know, they're beautiful. They really are.
Then this bed was broccoli. We pulled the broccoli out and planted in more sweet potatoes.
And we know they're close. We just had some extra slips. And, hey.
We just stick them.
Is that new?
No, that's where remember when they was up in the bed?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It just ain't come
But
out yet.
we know they're extremely close and way too close. But we had extra slips. Garden beds or dirt in general does not like to be naked. So instead of planting a cover crop, this is kind of like going to be our cover for our bed.
They'll take over. They'll be running vines everywhere. So right here you'll see though that there is some that are really short. And like I mentioned before, it's been really hot and really dry here. However, I have kept these watered. When I planted these, some of the little slips were very tender, and I guess from just the heat alone, they died back a lot. But they're starting to come out now. Like that one's got a brand new bud right there. It's amazing to me at just how tough sweet potatoes are.
Yeah.
They are a tough plant. Over here's more peppers. We kind of got carried away on peppers this year. I found out last year that I really took a liking to peppers. It's kind of like a new taste I've acquired or something. I don't know what the deal is, but so I might have got carried away with peppers this year. But these are all hot peppers in this bed. We got jalapenos, cayennes, and Carolina Reapers here, which I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do with those. I just really wanted to grow them. These were also suffering just like our other ones was, but they've really come out. And over in the corner, it's actually a cherry tomato that come up on its own. I'm really not sure where the seed for this thing might have come from. But whatever it is, like he's a really thick, healthy, bushy looking plant. And it's already got some tomatoes on it down there too.
Well, just let it live.
Yep, and just let it live. Then here we have a peach tree that was a volunteer that come up from a peach seed over here in the chicken house. I transplanted it and put it over here. We're gonna, obviously it'll take a couple years to see if it's gonna make a decent peach or not, but we had an apple tree that was here that died, so I thought why not replace it with the volunteer peach and just see how it went. Then we've got comfrey planted all in this bed. We've got some, what is this, chocolate peppermint?
No, it's
just regular peppermint.
It's mint. Mm-hmm.
We've got mint, and we've got some more purple coneflower. I've got a brandywine tomato right here that was a volunteer that for some reason just has been struggling. I'm not sure what happened to it. But like I said, it was a volunteer, so it doesn't make much difference. We've got some habanero peppers here. This one is extremely happy. And them three right there decided they want to grow a whole lot slower than the rest.
Well, the deer
bit this one, but I don't know what's happened to those two. Then more Kentucky Wonders growing over here. And y'all, if you've never done a trellis system like this, if you have a way of doing it, I highly encourage you doing it, because when you get in here to pick these, it is so easy. You're just like this right here. You're in the shade. Like, I'm pretty sure it's at least 5 or 6 degrees cooler under here than it is out there.
Well, it's like yesterday. It was, 95 yesterday, and I come out here picking them. It was actually, I shouldn't have been picking them in the heat of the day, but it was.
Right.
And I come out here, and I was under here, and I was like, this ain't so bad at all. Like,
this is so cool. And I know a lot of people do stuff like this, and underneath here, they'll grow some of your cooler season crops in the middle of the summer, like lettuces and stuff like that. We've never tried that. However, I could see it being a good idea to do. I just wonder how they get enough sunlight if you do that though. It seemed like to me it'd be too shady under here. But I have heard of people doing that. So now you can see we're back over here about where the blackberry is. And look at all the ripe berries. These weren't ripe last night.
I was say I picked some yesterday.
Man, them are good.
There's my volunteer deal.
Yeah, this deal come up actually out here where we normally mow. So we just been weed eating around it.
I like to let my deal seed out because it most of the time reseeds itself. It may be in a random spot like this
Like
one in
that.
the yard, but
See, there's seeds.
yeah, deal's pretty good about reseeding itself.
These are more bell peppers over here on this side. These are struggling a little bit. They were planted over there in the other bed with the other bell peppers, but the beans started creeping out on them so bad, I had to dig them up and transplant them. So I put them over here in this bed. It was empty other than the beans. And these two are finally starting to take off, but this one right here had some issues. I'm not 100% sure it's going to make it. I may even just pull it out because I don't think we're going to need it no ways. I'm going to grab me one more of these before we keep on. This is some volunteer corn that came off of the corn stalks that we laid down here for mulch. As you can see, there's our corn stalks. I think this was a pretty cool little experiment, but I don't know that I'll ever do it again, but it was pretty cool. So this is Jacob's garden. Jacob has been out here taking care of this thing about every day. However, I will say that I was a little bit right here. He's got a cucumber. I must have missed that one last night. But I was just a little bit disappointed in how this compost here has grew stuff. We ended up having to throw some fertilizer by a lot of it. And we've also noticed that he's had a lot of blossom end rot on just these tomatoes over here. The tomatoes over here where the vines aren't near as pretty, the tomatoes are doing excellent, which makes no sense, but it is.
And you put gypsum by these?
I put gypsum by every single one of them, and I've kept them really watered heavily. But I've noticed the blossom end rot is on the biggest tomato plant here, which makes me think. So, backstory here, in case you're new to the channel, this was a chicken lot. This is deep bedding that was in the chicken lot. I mean, it's probably this deep with nothing but wood chips that has been composted down.
And it's been, what, 2 years since we've had chickens in here?
Yeah, at least. Everything, when you scratch it back, like that is just some of the most beautiful soil you could ever imagine. However, I'm wondering if maybe it wasn't just a little bit too hot for these tomatoes, because like I said, you can see the vine itself has just grown like crazy, but the tomatoes are having a lot of blossom end rot issues, like right there. Every one of those. So, like I said, we've been trying to do something about it. I've threw more gypsum down, but I really think that this could have possibly been too hot of an area to plant the tomatoes, because they're growing like they have too much nitrogen. That's exactly what they look like. Then he's got him a row of green beans down through here. He likes to come out here and just pick the beans raw and eat them. He picks the cucumbers raw and eats them. His tomato plants are better boys. That's what he wanted to plant. So, and his cucumbers are pickling cucumbers. I think that's one of his favorite there is to eat. But he's pretty proud of this garden. He's just now starting to get green beans and cucumbers out of it. And like I said, for the most part, he's done every bit of the stuff in this garden on his own. He planted it on his own. He comes out here and picks it on his own.
Comes out here and pulls weeds.
He pulls weeds. He's been keeping the tomatoes up into the cage there, you know, and he's making sure the cucumbers run up the fence. You know, he's done a really good job taking care of it. But, you know, it's not his fault that he's getting the blossom end rot like it is. Now that we've done it, I think that it probably wasn't the best place to plant. All right, y'all. So that's about it for the raised beds here.
So that's everything that's right here, right on top of the house. Y'all be sure to be on the lookout for part 2, and I will link it to this video as soon as it comes out. We're gonna go around and show you we grow our own fruit too, so we're gonna show you all that and show you our big field gardens that are up the road and down across the creek. We hope y'all really enjoyed today's video. Until we see y'all on the next one, y'all have a good one.
Have a good one.